Afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in this wonderful world, and thank you for joining AireSpring for our monthly partner webinar. Today, we're excited to welcome our friends from Ooma, and they're here to discuss their AirDial POTS replacement solution. It's a true turnkey system that delivers intelligent connectivity, and it has a dual link redundancy, and there is no need for costly rip and replace. This is a great product. You're really going to enjoy this webinar today. Now, we are fortunate to have several experts from Ooma on the call with us today. Clinton Fitch, he's the Senior Director of Strategic Partnerships. Joel O'Brien, who is the VP of Solutions Engineering. Luke Sarnas, who's Strategic Partner Account Director at Ooma. And then joining them will be, from the AireSpring side, will be Wendell Nelson, our Senior Vice President of Strategic Partnerships. Now, before we get started, there's just a few quick housekeeping notes. All attendee lines are muted. But if you have questions, if you think of things you want the presenters to discuss or address, enter those questions into the question window that is provided by the GoToWebinar platform. Just do it anytime, doesn't matter. And at the end of the presentation, we'll address your questions live. Now, also, after the webinar, you will all receive a short survey by email. Please take a moment to complete it. Not only does it help us improve our educational content, but it also puts you in the drawing for the $100 Amazon gift card, and we do award that every single month. So with that being said, I'm going to move forward to the agenda. This is what we're going to cover today. On POTS replacement imperative, we're going to introduce the AirDial product, go over benefits, selling and positioning tips for the partners out there who would like to present this and surface opportunity. Benefits for partners. There's also a couple case studies in here too that Ooma team will present. And Wendell will address how you can get started selling Ooma through AireSpring. Then we'll have our Q&A, and then a quick update from AireSpring and wrap up for those who can stay for that. And that will be it for the call. So with that being said, I'm going to make Clinton give the keyboard and mouse to Mr. Clinton Fitch, and you can move the slides on your own. Thank you very much, Clinton.
Terrific. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. It's great to be here with you this morning and this afternoon. It's also great to be with our partner, AireSpring, and the great team that's there. Appreciate for this audience that POTS replacement is a known thing, but just to give some high level and some reminders, as the case may be, that the FCC has stopped oversight of the public switch telephone network, and they are allowing the incumbent carriers to eliminate their POTS networks really at whatever rate they want to. A lot of customers, your customers, more than likely have been getting disconnection notices, or if there's an issue, they're not repairing those issues any longer. So the handcuffs are off of them as far as price increase is concerned as well. I have an example on this slide. And it puts a lot of things at risk from a life safety system perspective. And keep in mind too that the carriers, they've got billions of dollars in copper in the ground. They want to get that copper back. So as they decommission, they're pulling the copper. And we're finding, and I'm sure you are too, that in new builds and new locations, getting a POTS line is not even a choice. So it has to be something else. So the lines that I'm talking about on this are those challenging lines, as I like to say. So the ones for fire alarm panels or high volume fax, elevators, gate entry system, IoT sensors, those kinds of things, right? Traditionally, UCaaS providers, Ooma being one of them, have left these alone because they've been challenging, or they've had some sort of requirements around it from a certification perspective. Now that these lines are going away, they have to be replaced. And so our perspective from this, from day one, was that we were always going to make sure that the device was certified to be able to handle these life safety systems. And that was a requirement for us from day one. It was also a requirement for us that we wanted to own the entire stack, meaning that we had both the hardware and the software side of it, both sides of the equation. And Luke's going to talk a little bit more in detail about that when he speaks in a few minutes. But it gives us a lot of control, and that's really important, not only for us as the vendor, but it's important for our customers and our partners as well. So with AirDial, it is an end-to-end solution. It is running on a network that's got over 2 million users on it. So this is a tried and true platform that it's built on. Keep in mind, Ooma as a company, we've been around for 20 years. We've been doing POTS replacement of those entire 20 years. We started life in the residential POTS replacement space and have moved into the SMB, into the enterprise space as well. And each one of these devices have built-in LTE, they have built-in Ethernet, they can handle 4 POTS devices, 4 FXS ports that are on it. So it is designed to be as turnkey as possible. And depending on where what it's going to be doing is where it's going to be installed. So it can be installed in an elevator shaft, it can be installed in a terminal closet, wherever the case may be. And we've won a lot of awards with this device already. We've had it on the market about 4 years now. We just won the LE, which is the elevator award, elevator vendors award that we won here just last week, actually. And then we won this year's internet telephony product of the year. So a lot of awards around this product because it's proven to be really the flag bearer for the industry right now, and the way that we've approached the market, the way that we've approached the product design, and the way that we approach it from a partner perspective as well. So how this operates is pretty straightforward. You've got the POTS device, it's connected into the AirDial, and then it goes over the carrier to the LTE carriers. Now, we have what's called a managed facilities voice network, MFVN, meaning that we have a direct connection between the carrier and us. Our cages literally in the data center sit next to each other, and we have cable running between them. What this does is it allows us to have not only end-to-end encryption all the way down, but it also allows us to keep all of the traffic off of the public internet. And for some of the regulatory requirements around life safety systems, for ASME, for elevators, or any of the fire certifications, they can't touch the public network. So this is something we've set up with the various carriers. We work with all of the carriers that are out there. So AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, US Cellular, which is now part of the T-Mobile family. So there's really not an issue from that perspective. As I said earlier, we really focused when we came out with AirDial, we started the development of focusing on these certifications. We knew that these were going to go for fire alarm panels and for door entry systems and elevators and so forth, particularly around fire panels and elevators. There are a lot of requirements. So we started with UL 864, which is usually enough for anybody. They're usually happy with that certification. But we've also got NFPA 72, ASME. We've got PCI and HIPAA compliance because we are a pass-through device. We're also compatible with Ray-Baum Act and Carey's Law. We have the FDNY certification because California and the New York Fire Department required their own certification, and of course we're certified with the FCC as well. We as a company are always taking a look at what the certification requirements are at the particular moment, but also what we need to do to maintain that compliance as well. And these change as time goes on. So what I would tell you as an AireSpring partner is that if you run into an opportunity and you have a question around certification, chances are that we have it. But by all means, reach out, work with your team, reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions around those. What we do find, and Luke can address this a little bit too when he speaks in a few minutes, is that we, generally speaking, when we tell a fire marshal or that we're NFPA certified, or we tell a municipality that we're UL 864 or whatever, that pretty much ends the conversations. But again, we've got the alphabet soup of different requirements that are for the device. So you'll know that it's going to work on whatever the deployment model is or whatever it's going to be connected to. One of the things that separates us from a lot of the competitors that are out there in this space is our MultiPath transport. Now, this is a patented technology, and it's a technology that we've actually had for a while. We've had it in some other products, and we ported it over to AirDial last year. And what this allows us to do is replicate the voice traffic across both the wired and the wireless connection at the same time. Now, AireSpring, as our partner and your partner, is advising that you do the dual connection if it's available, because it will give you this feature and functionality. And MultiPath is not something that you have to do anything other than flip a switch in the device, and the AireSpring team can do that for you. And what that does is it allows us to replicate those packets in an active typology. What that means is that there's no path change, there's no re-registrations or anything of that sort. So that means that there's no dropped calls. Now that becomes really important around life safety situations. So think of an elevator, for example. If somebody calls 911 or pushes the panic button inside of an elevator, and they need to have a phone call with 911, or they need to have a phone call with the property manager, whatever the situation is, however that's routed, this assures that the call happens, and it assures that the call stays up. So if it starts on Ethernet and then goes over to wireless in the middle of the call, it's not going to be noticed by either end of that call. It's going to happen seamlessly. And we designed it this way to make sure that in an emergency situation where lives may be at risk, that we make sure that that call happens, and we don't run into any delays, or we don't run into any dropped calls. And kind of related to this too is that we can send notifications to AireSpring on any sort of event that happens. You know, if the device goes on battery power, or if it goes on AC power, it has a built-in battery that can be extended out to 24 hours. That's part of the life safety system requirements that are around the device. But we can also send notifications around phone call events. So if somebody calls 911, we can send notifications around that. So work with your AireSpring team. They can help you get those set up and show you how they work and those kind of things. But it's one of those aspects of AirDial that makes it a bit unique. The notifications on events like battery and going on LTE versus on Ethernet, those are reasonably common now. Not everybody has them, but most do. But notifying on call events is something that is unique and something that we can do out of the box with the device. So this is a self-contained all-in-one box. As you can see, this is a photo from an actual deployment down in a basement in a building in Boston, if I remember correctly. You'll also notice there's a little LCD panel in there. This was kind of a last-minute thing that we added to the product, and it's become one of the things that a lot of folks really enjoy and appreciate about the device. You can look at it and it gives you the gratuitous stats. You know, it tells you if your lines are in, if a line is in use, or the battery status, or the WAN status, and so forth. You've got two antennas that are built into it that are replaceable. So that's a standard SMA connector. So we have a wide range of antennas that will work with it, either connected directly or by extension. And we designed this solution to be rugged, and it's an industrial design that doesn't have any moving parts. So it's all heat sink and ventilation cooling. We knew that if we put moving parts in, that's just something to fail. So, and knowing where these are going to go, again, in basements, elevator shaft, telecom closets, wherever, they may not necessarily be easy to access. So we didn't want to have a situation where if you had a fan fail, it would be an issue. And again, Luke will talk a little bit about the top to bottom, but with us having the whole stack, everything is in this one box. So the WAN connectivity, the LTE connectivity, the 4 FXS ports on the back, etc. Everything is designed to be in this one box. So we don't rack and stack as others have done. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Luke, and he's going to talk about the sales and positioning of the AirDial solution. Luke?
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, let's dive into what this means for you and your customers. Some of this may be a little repetitive, but I really want to emphasize a few key areas on what I see every day on the front lines as someone helping my partnerships sell these opportunities to customers. We're seeing the biggest uptick yet when it comes to larger enterprises looking to make this switch. RFPs are going out just about every day, more so than I've ever seen before, and some of which we've actually seen mandate or ask for AirDial to be the solution, which is, a great testament to the strength of the solution. I really believe that POTS are actually the Trojan horse of our industry for many reasons, but one of them is that if you aren't having the conversation with your customers, I guarantee somebody else is at some point. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen 1 or 2 POTS lines lead to a multi-location opportunity that nobody saw coming. And on the other side, actually, I had one partner who unfortunately lost a 1,500 line opportunity that he didn't even know existed because he never had the conversation with his customer about it. So CIOs, CTOs, IT directors, property managers, these are the ones leading the charge on this project the most from what I've seen, and what our team has seen, more so than ever. Actually, we're seeing CFOs now knocking on the doors of their IT teams. So with CFOs and CTOs now in better alignment, it makes the conversation about POTS much more important and more important than ever. Getting these teams to feel comfortable and having the right solution in place is key. And today, AirDial supports numerous hospitals, government agencies, schools, nursing homes, all mission critical type environments. These are places that demands the very best and have the most stringent requirements. So, one of the biggest obstacles that we come across is the budget constraints that these teams have. And so, they want to install things like AI, security, and a lot of times we hear they can't look at POTS right now. We need to do XYZ first, and they simply don't have the budget for it. But it's funny because in a world where companies are always trying to reduce operating expenses and increase revenue, POTS are often overlooked as a cost-saving strategy. And I would argue that a POTS replacement project should be considered first, and that the cost savings over time could even fuel those other projects like we've seen time and time again. And that's where a lot of our wins come from. Another important point is liability. We can't ignore this one because it could have catastrophic consequences. In fact, the audit alone could save a company money because oftentimes the lines for the alarm panels weren't even plugged in and working to begin with. And so we discover this. And so doing the migration ensures cleanup, it keeps them compliant and prevents a potentially terrible situation. Next slide, please. So again, some of this may be a little repetitive, but it's just really important to recap, to do a deeper dive, especially as you extend this info to your customers. And so, it often requires many reminders and conversations before they actually sign the paperwork. And so aside from a highly reliable network, the fact that we own the software, as Clinton was saying, the coding and the hardware, it can't be overlooked. Because we control the inventory to ensure there are no shortages. We control how easily these lines adopt the solutions that they're plugging into. We control the frequencies that need to be adjusted for certain applications. We have the engineers to make those tweaks on the fly and support our partners in the field in real time. And simply put, we just have much greater control over the quality of the product. The same engineers who built AirDial are still with us today. And another key point is that AirDial is a solution that can work on, just cellular, or it can work with a wired Ethernet connection as well as a cell connection. And there are some solutions out there that require that Ethernet connection. And while we highly recommend both, together, it's not a requirement of AirDial. And so why might that be important when you're going after a potentially very large deal? We just won a 3,000 location retail chain that didn't want their traffic riding over their primary internet. And so this also makes our solution an easier one to deploy if Ethernet doesn't need to be extended or can't be extended to the device. And another differentiator is that we fine-tuned our antennas to penetrate walls better with our LTE. Again, that control is critical when it comes to user experience. And as Clinton mentioned, that LCD screen on the device has been a crowd favorite. Being able to see the most important info right there on the screen just makes for a much better install experience. You can see the signal strength, lines, the numbers associated with each port. That's another reason why our device goes in so seamlessly compared to many others out there. And the last one point I'll make is faxing. Because we own and control the end-to-end software stack, we've designed and built additional resiliency and dramatically improving the reliability of long-form fax sessions. And even when it's used over AirDial's managed LTE network path. In fact, we have large hospitals that fax over AirDial with no issues or lost pages. So again, have those conversations early, have them often. It's a winning formula. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. Really good conversation around that. Just to extend that, right? Let's put it into practice, right? Every industry needs this solution, right? POTS replacement, whether it's multi-location high-rise buildings, individual retail restaurant type environments, right? Everybody's got at minimum some life safety requirement especially when they own the building, right? When they own the building or they control the building through a ground lease or something like that, right? They're going to need life safety lines at minimum, if not additional lines for voice. And we've got real environments out there that we've helped deploy that are in these businesses. And I just want to spend a couple of minutes going over case studies, something like a commercial real estate management investment company. Think of those REITs, those real estate income trusts, and those portfolio property managers and owners. And maybe your relationship, maybe it's a nationwide type customer brand, but your relationships with the portfolio or individual property manager, that's a great start, right? You build that up through references, right? You get in there, you serve those elevators, those blue light phones, call boxes, emergency call stations, gate and door and building entry access systems for those properties, all the life safety, alarm panels, right? Save that property money, work with that portfolio manager to extend to additional properties, get references for their network of additional properties that are managed by other portfolio managers. That's what we're doing, and that's what we see a lot of partners like you doing. They start small, right? Think big and broad. We extend this nationwide and into Canada as well. So we have a great partnership with cellular providers in Canada to provide the service. We can even help you guys out, or help the reseller out with the installations, right, if needed. But think big like that. Start small is a great way to do it. And this real estate management income trust type concept, right? Storage centers, multi-story buildings, right? Individual warehouse facilities, distribution centers, right? Most of those are rolled up under some sort of REIT or property trust. Next slide, please. Another great industry, I'm just highlighting a couple of really good industries that we've seen a lot of traction in. But again, everybody needs this, right? Especially for life safety, but these mission critical, healthcare, nursing homes, skilled nursing centers, right? Where they have, obviously they have elevators, they're multi-story, right? They have fire alarm panels, they have emergency call stations, They even may have some sort of red phones, right? We see that in large hospital environments where they have hundreds, in some cases, throughout the hospital system, red phones for regulatory purposes. These are perfect for the AirDial solution because you think about it today, they're on POTS lines for a very specific reason. They need to be distinct and diverse and delineated from that hospital's primary form of communication. Probably the hospital's got run a call manager or a via IP office in-house, if not a cloud solution. They need to have backup, last resort, dial tone, and phone and voice connectivity in the event the internet carrying that SIP or that UCaaS solution is impacted in any way. That's a regulatory thing, right? So AirDial is a perfect solution for that, right? That different technology, right, than what they're carrying their primary SIP on, different platforms on the back end, right? And we can switch those calls out. We support E911. Again, this is an example of an assisted living center where we converted 2,100 life safety lines across, over 280 locations, including Canada. Porting numbers were applicable for things like fax machines, but really serving predominantly life safety use cases like elevators, red phones, and alarm panels. Okay. So that's another, just highlighting another great industry. This also applies to hotels, hospitality, right? You think of that as an industry, right? They're going to need the same thing, a couple of elevators to convert in your typical choice type hotel, maybe more in a resort type situation, right? They're going to have alarm panels. They're going to have areas of refuge, right? Which generally have call stations. Those are regulatory things that they need to have. Those have POTS. Life service on them, right? So AirDial is the perfect solution, a really good fit for that to maintain and extend that connectivity. We also have features on board, just like a POTS line to line power devices and elevators and call boxes. And some of these areas where if you have power outage, right, those devices still need to operate under line power. Before they could on POTS, right, from the central office, right, we maintain that theme, providing up to 30 milliamps of loop current through AirDial, right, for each individual line. So think through some of those concepts as you go through some of these use cases, and to Luke's point, really get in with these customers, get your foot in the door. It might be 2 to 3 lines to start, it can spread like wildfire once they realize the savings that are involved and the capabilities and flexibility that the solution has. Great solution too for Centrex lines. In many of these environments we see, right, Centrex lines are still in play, especially with city governments, large hospitals. Again, going back to them, right, we can adapt and replace those Centrex lines for that life safety, those life safety use cases at face value, as well as those everyday 1FB POTS lines. That's it. Just wanted to highlight a couple of use cases. Hopefully, set off some thoughts on that, and we'll turn it back over.
Thanks, Joel. Wendell, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Clinton. So you're going to have control of the slides. So first off, before I get into some of the benefits for our partners out there, I first want to provide a thank you to, Clinton, Joel, and Luke for providing a lot of this data and their team behind them that helped put this data together so that we could share as much detail with you guys on this webinar today. So I really appreciate that. We're going to jump in a little bit of just some of the benefits to the partners. I mean, obviously, as you could see from some of the slides that they presented, there's a pretty large revenue opportunity and commission potential for you and your customers out there today along various industries that you saw. You saw a lot of the industries that they highlighted, in this presentation that are good fits for the Ooma POTS replacement product. You also see that these are some of the same industries and verticals that you're going after today to sell the broader AireSpring portfolio when you're out there selling services. So while we obviously would appreciate and will always welcome, just AirDial POTS replacement opportunities only, I also encourage you guys to keep thinking about when you're out there today. If you're out there today working on a multi-site deal that's selling connectivity and voice, ask the questions, bring up the subject of, do you have any POTS lines, and do you still have a need for these, life and safety lines, and what is your solution for that? So you can always pitch along with the services and proposals that you're already working on today. Just add this, add this offering into the overall solution, and get additional revenue and additional services and spend out of the customer on opportunities that you're already engaged in today. Obviously, as you heard from these guys in here, we have great support from the Ooma team. They'll be available to us if we run into things that your channel manager can't answer, our SEs can't answer, or myself or someone on my team from our product organization can't help provide for you. We'll always have the ability to reach out to this Ooma team for support. They're always willing to come in and even co-sell and sit at the table with us if it's necessary to win deals together. Next slide. How to get started. So main thing for you in terms of how to get started is that obviously, engage your channel managers and or SEs. So as you're out there working on opportunities, and if you initiate those conversations to gauge interest into POTS replacement, feel free to engage the channel managers and SEs to jump on any of those discovery calls with you that may be necessary to see if we can find a fit, to see if there's a way to add this to the product that you have today. From a pricing perspective, obviously, this product offering is available for you. You can pull the rate sheets down out of QuoteSpring. You can also go in and physically quote and create a proposal for this offering within the QuoteSpring tool, as well as create order forms and send them straight out to your customers. Obviously, you can also engage your channel manager or the sales support personnel, and they can create that quote for you. We would just need the details around how many locations, how many numbers or lines at each location, and we'll put that proposal and order form together for you, if that makes sense. So with that, I think we're pretty much going to get ready to hand it back over to Ellen and hopefully get to some questions and answers here. But I want to tell the entire team that on behalf of both AireSpring and Ooma, we look forward to partnering with you to discover and find some of these opportunities, but not just find them. We look forward to winning some opportunities and new business together to enable new revenue and new commissions opportunities for all of us. With that, Ellen, you want to turn it over and see if we've got any Q&A?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Wendell. Thank you, Luke. Thank you, Quentin. And thank you, Joel, very much. We do have some questions, and let's start with this one, which goes to the entire panel. And this is a $1 million question. What is your best guess on when POTS lines will no longer work or be completely decommissioned?
Well, I think probably all three of us could answer this one. AT&T has been the most direct on this. They have said they want to be out of the business by 2029. And at their current decommission rate, I think it will be there, if not sooner. The others have been a little bit more cagey about it, but anytime they decommission a part of the network or whatever, they have to let the FCC know, and we monitor that to see where lines are getting dropped or networks are being dropped. So it's funny, Wendell and I were talking about this yesterday. We've been talking about POTS replacement for a really long time. The reality is it's here now. And it's a set of things that cause it to happen. One of them being the FCC pulling off the handcuffs, not regulating this anymore and allowing the carriers to decommission and charge whatever they want, et cetera. So we're at that point now. I mean, as I often tell customers that I'm talking to, if you're not thinking about a POTS replacement strategy, you're behind now at this point, because you're going to end up stuck in line waiting for others who have already made their POTS replacement decisions and plans to get service first. So it's happening at a pretty good clip at this point, and I don't see that slowing down. Wendell, Luke, Joel, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, we're just seeing an increased surprise reaction, right, from certain customers who haven't been ahead of this and weren't aware, right? They're getting hit with deprecation notices. Their central office is being turned down from a traditional POTS sense. In some cases, they're going through extensive, break fix issues that they just can't get rectified timely anymore. So all these are signals that they really should get ahead of it. I wouldn't worry about tracking an absolute timeline. I don't think there will be one. I think it'll just be this continued piecemeal dismantling of that traditional network and infrastructure and service.
Yeah, and I think the one key point that Clinton brought up in his answer to that as well is it's not just when it's going away. The extreme rate increases that you're seeing in a lot of these areas are really forcing you to have to try to make a decision before it goes away, because otherwise it becomes considerable cost burdensome on the business. So that is probably, to me, going to drive it more so than, like you say, when is that absolute drop dead date of it being gone.
Right.
That's a great point. It's all about cost avoidance as well, and being out of compliance, right? That can shut a building down.
Absolutely.
Those elevators don't have dial tone, and an inspector walks in there for the semi-annual inspection, right? You can't complete a call through there.
All good things to keep in mind. Take action now. Start your planning now. Don't wait till they say, "Oh, it's over," because you'll not be in great shape if you do wait that long. Okay, so we have a question about, can you have external antennas if needed?
So yes, you can. We offer a wide range of antennas that are both internal, so to raise the antennas up 50 feet or 100 feet or whatever, and we do have external options as well for outdoor mounting.
A couple of those options are included on the standard rate sheets as well as in QuoteSpring for you to pick today. If you need something broader or something a little different, then we can always do that through an ICB or special pricing process request as well. But there are a couple of basic extended antennas that was rolled out as a part of the initial launch.
And what I would tell you too, and Joel can speak to this from more of a technical perspective than I can. This is an IoT device, so we don't necessarily have to have the greatest SINR in the world, signal to noise ratio, for us to be able to get a call through. We're talking about really small packets, low data, et cetera, low throughput. So it's not a situation like it's your mobile phone, right? Your iPhone or your Android, where you need 4 bars, 5 bars, or whatever. It's a different model, and it's a different way of processing those calls. So what we find is that even in non-ideal scenarios where they're being put into a basement, or they're being put in the top of an elevator shaft or whatever, or in the cab or whatever, rarely do we actually need the external antennas, but they are there if they need to be used in a situation where perhaps it's a rural area or something like that where the coverage isn't so great. Joel, I don't know if you want to add anything to that from a technical perspective.
Yeah, I think that's well said. We've got multiple choice of carriers. With some carriers like T-Mobile, we now support band 66, which is extended range coverage, which works really well for some of these more rural environments where the towers are a little more spread out. And we support the ordinary frequencies and the ordinary bands that cellular phones use, but we also support lower frequency bands that give more pinpoint penetration through those buildings and bunkers and basements, right? I think you're going to see a much better performance with AirDial overall, location over location, versus just gauging it even with a cell phone. And without resorting to the exterior antenna kits, by the way.
Okay, all right, thank you. Here's another question. Does the customer have the ability to reboot the device, the AirDial device?
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'll the device could be remotely rebooted. So you'll work with your AireSpring team and your support team to go through that process, and they can take care of that for you.
Yeah.
Follow-on question of that is the best cellular carrier at a location determined during the install?
Joel, I'm going to leave that one to you, brother.
It is, right. If we're doing the installs, that is done at time of installation, right? We'll look for the best carrier. We may start with a particular carrier. I think we start with T-Mobile, and if that's not adequate, we'll step to either AT&T or Verizon.
Okay. Here's another installation question. What has been your typical installation time?
Yeah, that's a good one. That generally depends. There's a lot of factors that go into that one, right? It depends a lot on the environment, the amount of discovery that's needed to positively identify the existing twisted pair inside wiring. We're generally installing these because they are mixed use case product, right? Where you can connect to a myriad of analog devices. It's best to install in a DMARC type area where all that twisted pair inside wiring comes from the end devices. So there is some discovery around that, right, to make sure you're working with the right twisted pair wiring and inside wiring that connects to the interesting devices that the customer is interested in transitioning. But I would, on average, 30 minutes a line, if you said on average, in a kind of single DMARC environment might be adequate, 30 to 45 minutes a line, right? If it's a more distributed type environment, like a school or kind of a college campus or something like that, multiple buildings and dwellings, there might be multiple DMARCs, there might be some transit stuff going on, right? That can take a little bit longer, depending on the number of lines and number of devices you're connecting to.
Okay, thank you. And we have a question on who will actually be doing the install when they buy through AireSpring.
When they buy through AireSpring, we will be using Ooma will be doing the turnkey solution on behalf of AireSpring. So I'll let them speak to the text that they use, but we will just be outsourcing that and turning it over so that the same group of people within Ooma who helped us set the device up and get all the settings are going to be the ones coordinating directly with those field techs on the installs.
Yeah, and Ooma maintains,
that covers it.
Yeah, installation and break fix support across North America, including the US and Canada.
Okay. And how many devices can be daisy chained per location? I think you said the box can have 4 lines. Was that what you said earlier, Clinton?
It is what I said earlier, yeah. So you can have 4 FSS 4 POTS devices per AirDial device. Then if you have more lines than that, you can just install more boxes. Joel, you want to speak to that, buddy?
Yeah, well, yeah, and think of it as, there's a SIM in that box that's running the cellular connection. You may have wired Ethernet going back to a switch or firewall if the customer's allowing you to connect to their wired internet as well, which is always recommended when possible, right? So for each box you need, you're going to get a separate SIM for each of the up to 4 analog lines and devices you want to connect to. So there's really no daisy chaining effect here, and actually there's a benefit to that, right? Diversifying across higher density environments, right? Where, like we talked about, those red phones and elevators and even alarm panels, fire panels by code having 2 POTS lines in them. We'll diversify and stripe those lines across multiple AirDials when the density is required or the higher density is required in those situations. And that way, you're maintaining more diversity at the customer edge, right? Which just gives another level of resiliency and redundancy.
Yeah, and just one thing to keep in mind as well. If you go look into QuoteSpring today and how you're quoting it with AireSpring, you're going to see that I think we capped it at 8, so you could get 2 devices right now. And we did that not because it can't physically be done, but for all of these things that we're talking about. If someone has a need for 16, 20, 24 lines at one location, we want to get a little bit more details about the opportunity to make sure that we're considering the appropriate time that would be required to do a site survey if you decide to choose the site survey route. As well as make sure we're accounting enough time to do the install if there's that many lines on site. So it's not a physical limitation. If you see when you go into QuoteSpring that it will only let you quote 8, we did it just because we want to take a little bit of a more detailed look and make sure that we take in consideration all the appropriate considerations for the site survey and the install. I don't want anybody to get surprised by, oh, will this take a lot longer than we thought? Well, yeah, there was 20 sites distributed or 24 lines distributed across 3 different MPOs. You know, that's going to complicate it a little bit.
Thanks, Clinton. There are a couple questions about pricing, which we're not going to cover pricing in this webinar. Wendell, the best thing is.
Let me, yeah, I'll give just a high level, not,
yep.
Yeah, not pricing, but I just do want to say we offered a lot of different options, you know, with the, from the pricing perspective. There's, NRC options if your customer wants to take on some of this cost in an NRC perspective as opposed to MRC. There's a lot of options when it comes to purchasing the equipment, both an NRC and an MRC. Same thing for the install, same thing for the site survey. And that is something we probably didn't speak to a lot earlier through here. And it's an afterthought now that I think about it. But we do give you the option that if you want to do a site survey, you can also include a site survey as a part of this process as well. So if you've gotten your inventory buttoned up and you know how many lines you've got and what they're used for, maybe the site survey isn't necessary. But if you're not really sure, probably worthwhile to go do the site survey, and then that'll just make the install go a lot smoother because we will have done all of that discovery work as a part of the site survey.
Okay, great. Thanks, Wendell. Number portability. Clinton, I think that came up, or Luke, that came up earlier in the presentation. Do you want to go over that again? Number portability?
Yeah, happy to. Yeah, so number porting is not a problem at all. We do hundreds, if not thousands, of ports a day. Remember, we're a used CAS company at heart, so we do a lot of porting. We have a whole process, a pretty smooth process on making that happen. So number porting is not a problem at all, and the process just depends on the other carrier involved. We've seen it take as little as 2 days. We've seen it take as long as 14 days. During the install process, you're going to have a temporary number anyway, so the device will work, and we'll have it up and going while we're waiting for that port to finalize. And then once the port's over, we'll work with the team to get those numbers active on the device. Now, I will say, for folks who have a published fax number, porting is really, really important. If it's going for a fire alarm panel or it's going for a security panel of some sort, it may not be as necessary. Chances are, as long as the monitoring company knows the number that it's coming from, it's fine. But we can do it either way. So yeah, porting is no big deal. Easy for us to do.
Okay, great. And just so everybody who's still on the call, this call was recorded, this webinar was recorded for replay. We will send out a link via email to everyone who attended as well as registered. And we will include a copy of the slide deck. People have asked about that, so we will take care of that. So another question is, do most of the facilities managers out there know about this technology, or do they know this phase out is coming? I mean, how educated in general do you think the people who make this decision for their companies are?
Yeah, Luke provided some really good feedback on it. I'm gonna ask him to kind of chime in here, but we've done a lot of surveys of the market. We worked with Foundry and did some surveys, and we found that there's still about 34% of the market, of those folks that were surveyed, who either didn't have a POTS replacement plan or didn't think it was that big of a deal. And those are the ones that I worry about, that we worry about, both AireSpring and Ooma collectively as partners and as individual organizations, because those are the folks that are going to get caught out. They're the ones, like Joel was saying, if the elevator phone isn't working and there's an inspection, that building can get shut down. Well, that's awfully business impacting, depending on the business or what that entity does or what have you. But Luke, you want to expand on that a little bit? And from a sales perspective, as you said, you're kind of in the trench, and so you see a lot more of it.
Yeah. So we're seeing As it relates to property management, property managers, we're seeing price drive that influence for the most part, and it's the education, it's the planting that line or dropping that line in the water, letting them know this is what's happening, because they may not be the most technical people in the world. I don't know what their background is, but if they aren't technical, if they're not part of that piece of it, they will eventually see the bill, and that's going to start to drive that behavior. But if you're talking to them, if you have customers in that space, definitely be talking to them. Maybe they're not ready right now, but they could be in a month or two, and at some point they're going to be in a panic to get these lines converted over. So
Yeah, that sounds like a scary but real live thing that they're going to be facing. I'm sure there'll be lots of examples of that, unfortunately, in the near future.
Well, and Ellen, we've already seen it. I mean, we've had customers, we've had then not customers, now customers call us and be told they're cutting my POTS lines in 72 hours. What do I do?
Wow.
Right? So they're supposed to give notices, and they do. I mean, most of the carriers are pretty good about it, but that doesn't mean that it didn't get missed, right? Sometimes it happens, or that disconnection goes to the wrong department inside the organization, and it doesn't go anywhere or something like that. So sometimes it's just human error. Sometimes it's they've had a cut in the network very close to that building. They have no intention of repairing that network cut. So they tell them, yeah, your lines are gone, and we're not connecting them back up. And those situations have really happened already.
Yeah, when we've even seen fines levied against businesses for not replacing those lines. And I don't know how many times or how often that's going to happen or occur, but I saw one as high as $10,000 for every month they don't replace it. So
wow,
yeah,
that is huge. So your comment earlier, Luke, about have that conversation with your customers now, don't wait, is really more critical than they might think, because their customers could be fine. They could be literally shut down, the facility shut down, and it's not just a matter of their bills getting bigger and bigger every month. It's something that's mission critical. They got to handle ASAP. And somebody else could swoop in there and have that conversation with them, and they can lose that customer.
Well, I think the most important thing that people need to remember is that everybody keeps thinking about this drop dead date, end date of when POTS and copper is going to be gone from the industry, period. That really doesn't matter. What really matters is when is it going to be gone at your location or your customer's location?
Exactly.
Because that's already happened to a lot of these customers, and a lot of these examples that we're talking about in here. They've already hit that window. They already got that 30-day notice, and it's gone from their area, from their central office that serves them. So, it's not going to be just looking ahead to 2029. There's going to be days happening almost every day between now and 2029 where the services are being removed and people are hitting that harsh reality.
Well, and Wendell, I'll add on to what you're saying too, is that what we've also found is that we have several customers who are in the quick service restaurant space, right? What they're finding is that they're going into a new location. They're building a new, whatever, and POTS isn't even an option. Like it's not there. The network was never built out into that suburb. Therefore, it's not available. Therefore, you have to do something else. So we're also seeing that as well, as where customers, they don't even have that option.
It really is an emergency situation that people got to deal with.
Exactly.
So let's see. We've got we've got a lot of but I think we've covered a lot of this. How are we doing time-wise? We've got 4 minutes left. I'm not sure, we didn't talk about this before we started, but how do you feel about comparing Ooma AirDial to some of competitive products out there without necessarily naming the competitors? We had a question about one specific competitive product, but what makes your product better than the others out there? I'll just put that.
Oh, I think there's.
Right, Glenn.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. I think for us is a few things. One is something both Luke and I hit on is we own the stack. It's one box. We own the board inside of it. We own the firmware that runs on it. It's our design, et cetera. We're not dependent on other vendors or other manufacturers. It's us. That gives us a tremendous amount of control over the experience, but it gives us a tremendous amount of control when it comes to fingerprinting these different fire alarm panels or security panels or so forth. I often equate it to a curated experience, if you will. It's kind of the Apple approach of owning the hardware and the software, and it really does give you a level of control that some of our competitors don't have. And we've gotten to the point now because of that we really can't, there's not a panel out there that we can't work with. We've just unlocked all of them. I think the second thing is that this is an area of expertise for Ooma as a company. We have been doing copper replacement in some variety, shape, or form for over 20 years. And there's no mystery around who we are and what we do. We're a publicly traded company. It's easy to figure out where we are and what's going on from a company perspective. And that gives not only our partners like AireSpring a level of comfort, but it also gives end customers a level of comfort. We're not fly by night. We've been around for a long time, and we plan on being around for a long time. And there's other things too. You know, the notifications, especially on call events, that's another key piece. And I think the ethos of who Ooma is in AirDial, and that we really designed this to be turnkey and as straightforward an installation as possible.
Okay, great. Those are really good and important points, and thank you for reiterating those again. So, anything else? We pretty much have a lot of the questions. One of the questions that was asked, and I think we may have touched upon it. Will you end up being more compliant with the Ooma AirDial over POTS, or just as compliant? Is there any people are concerned, will they not be compliant in any way at all? I don't believe that's the case based on the presentation, but maybe just put minds at ease on that one.
Yeah, they're really we're really in good shape there, because we designed, even though it's a multi-service and multi-use case appliance, right? We've designed it first and foremost around fire life safety, and specifically around the National Fire Protection Association, NFPA, and specifically the NFPA 72 code, which is a national code that governs how alarm panels, fire alarm panels specifically, and FLS systems need to convey signal status to their central monitoring centers, right? So we're covered completely with NFPA 72. You could go back, you know, to jurisdictions that are still on the 2013 code, or some of the newer jurisdictions, or jurisdictions that have just updated to the 2025, the more recent code that also includes cybersecurity requirements within the code, right? We're covered with all of those things, and we've got all kinds of collateral that the AireSpring team will be able to share with you on any of those use cases. But I guess my point is, right, that is the worst case situation when it comes to compliance, right? There's compliance with elevators. There are compliance with certain areas of refuge and other types of emergency call stations, red phones in hospitals we talked about, right? We're going to meet or exceed all of those requirements at any level for any jurisdiction across the country, and really across North America as we extend into Canada with this solution.
Good. Thank you very much for that explanation. Makes perfect sense. One more question that was popped in. Why use a solution like AirDial versus some point solutions that are out there, like the burglar fire communicators?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of the resiliency, even if you're only needing to address a use case. You know, we're doing, you know, we've got a national retail chain of convenience store gas stations, right? 7,000 stores nationwide that's being deployed. And for example, the use case is a single burglar for each one. But I think it's the level of resiliency that you get on board with AirDial, number one, right? We've got that, obviously the wired internet, Ethernet interface, as well as the cellular interface. We can run our MultiPath technology that Clinton described earlier, which is really an SD-WAN, gives an SD-WAN-like experience to the packet side of AirDial. That's a differentiator in itself. And it's all about resiliency and reliability. And you're going to want to look at some of those point solutions. They can be limited, right? And they can be overkill as well for certain use cases. So you definitely want to compare some of the resiliency aspects of it and the redundancy aspects of it, and see if they're even capable of handling multiple paths, because there's different configurations for different jurisdictions that are required.
Yeah, you could also be adding another point of failure too as well, and unnecessarily adding more equipment to the environment, when you could simply use an AirDial for that and then other applications as well.
And point solutions for fire alarm safety and fire life safety panels generally come with, because they're classified as cellular communicators, they have a different classification than an MFVN POTS replacement solution. They require licensing, permitting, and additional inspections from code compliance, where AirDial does not.
Good point. Good point. Okay, I think we've got the bulk of the questions covered and answered. There's some people have asked me other things off the side. I'll follow up with you after the webinar. And as I mentioned, this was recorded. We will have a link to the replay posted in our AsianStar.net partner portal. So look for that under resources. We have a section with a lot of marketing materials, including the recorded webinars and videos under marketing resources or resources/marketing. And we will send out an email to everybody who registered, not just attended, with the replay link and a copy of the deck. So look for that. And once we get the video edited and posted, we'll have that ready for you, probably given the end of the week, early next week. Now, I think unless there's some last minute thoughts from the Ooma team and Wendell, anything we didn't ask that we want to put out there that people should know?
I'll just reiterate from the Ooma side. I think, from the Ooma side, just that we value the partnership that we have with AireSpring, and we're here to help in whatever way we can, whether it be technical, whether it be sales, whether it be just information, whatever the case may be, we're here to help. And we look forward to a fruitful relationship together. And I thank everybody for their time in attending today. And obviously, if you have questions or what have you, route those to Ellen or Wendell, and we'll help whatever way we can. So thank you.
Yes. And those partners on the call, if you do not have an AireSpring channel manager assigned to you, or you need one, send an email to sales@airspring.com, and the channel team will make sure they get somebody in touch with you. You can also send an email to me, ellen.cahill@airspring.com. Now, I want to thank the Ooma team and Wendell for putting this together and helping us bring this information to our partners this month. It was really good. I really appreciate what the material guys. I think you've got a well thought out solution here. I think that the point you brought up about owning the entire stack is really critical. I think I can't emphasize that enough. Again, I don't have a PhD in electronics or electrical engineering, but I don't think you need to know the value of that.